The 80% is brought to you by Axonify. To learn how you can build training for your frontline workforce that actually works, visit axonify.com.
Episode 1, Resilience in Grocery, recorded on Friday, April 3rd, 2020.
Hi, Risha.
Hi, JD.
Our story in this episode is going to take us to a very familiar setting, the grocery store. Risha, when was the last time you went to the grocery store?
The last time I was at the grocery store was about 2 weeks ago, which is rare for me because I usually do click and collect. But this time I needed to go in because I wasn't able to get everything I was looking for. And it was a different experience than I'd ever had.
Traditionally, I'd visit a grocery store maybe 2 or 3 times a week just to grab what I needed at that particular time. But I've also spent a lot of time in grocery stores for work, especially the last 2 or 3 years or so, visiting with different grocers to talk about how they train their employees. And a lot of our conversations would focus on the topics you'd expect, things like customer service, productivity, compliance, increasing sales, and basket size. But frankly, the conversation around training a grocery store associate has changed a lot in just the past couple of weeks.
Grocery store workers find themselves on the front line of the battle against COVID-19, and as customers continue to shop, these workers worry about their own safety.
This morning, major grocery stores working overtime, ramping up staffing to get food and supplies from the warehouse to supermarket shelves.
Measures like this, too, a 2x3 plexiglass screen, dozens of them now in place to serve as a barrier between shoppers and cashiers.
They're the unsung heroes of the coronavirus crisis. Grocery store workers, restaurant employees, and delivery people on the front lines every day, risking their health so people can get the food and products they need to survive.
So we're all experiencing a rapid change in what it means to go to the grocery store. But we're experiencing it from the consumer's perspective. Today's story is about shifting that perspective to think about what it's like to be on this part of the front line of a pandemic.
I've worked in retail, but never in grocery, so I only know the grocery experience as a shopper. I just have to wonder, what's it like to be a grocery store associate right now?
The quick answer for that is very stressful.
That's Evan Parks. Evan's a member of the Axonify team who really focuses on enabling frontline retail associates, including those in grocery. But both Evan and his entire family actually have a really deep background in grocery.
I've been in the grocery industry for 30 years. My family has been in the business for 3 generations. So my dad, myself, and now I have a son in the business.
And during his extensive career, Evan's really seen the grocery business from every different perspective.
In grocery, I spent those years starting out in high school as a bagger, worked my way all the way up to store manager, eventually moving on to district manager and corporate support roles and learning and development.
So with both Evan's background and the work he's doing today, he's a great person to learn from when it comes to what's actually happening right now on the front lines in grocery. And what can we take away so that if you're supporting a frontline workforce, what can you learn from the experiences that are being had right now on the front lines in the grocery stores? And it really starts with the human side of this story. Because again, we're all experiencing the change in what it's like to shop in a grocery store right now. But what is it like to work in that environment day in and day out?
They're putting their lives pretty much on the line in a lot of cases. So much unknown, very busy, loaded with stressed customers, not enough employees really to work because some are not risking their lives and going out to the work in the store. So they're short-staffed. So you have an increase in business, less people working all at the same time.
But it's not just about the busyness. For a lot of grocery associates, what they actually do day to day on the job is also changing a lot.
The latest thing is, changing people's roles from before where everybody maybe was serving customers in the store to moving to more fulfilling online orders, trying to expand whatever they're doing in click and collect. Some people are using third parties. Some people are attempting to do it themselves, but they have a lot of employees that never had to fulfill orders for customers before. And now they're switching to that. So there's definitely a big change there. Some of the other things that they're changing to is just focus on tasks, just putting groceries on the shelf, checking customers out.
And then there's the addition of tasks that you may not always see, but are of great importance right now.
The big one that maybe goes unseen is the cleaning increase, right? So you're seeing people at the front of stores wiping down shopping baskets before people take them, continuously cleaning areas that customers have to touch, like pin pads and register scanners. So the cleaning, I think, is another big piece that maybe people don't think about right away.
Feeling supported and that you have what you need in order to do your best work is an important part of really any job. Employee development is often talked about as a differentiator or a reason why an associate may select a particular employer over another organization. But right now, we're looking at performance through a very different lens. So what does employee training mean right now in grocery?
There's continued learning that has to happen to really make these employees be able to take on these new roles and be efficient at them in the long run. Right now, they're looking for ways to be able to get people ready fast and get them working, thinking that some of them are coming from other industries and they're only here for a short-term role. So because there is so much turnover and so many people coming and going, it's hard for them to invest a lot of time into that. But at some point, they're going to have to readdress it and put people through a proper level of training for compliance purposes and just to ensure that they even understand the real expectations of the job and how to do the role correctly versus just getting it done.
You quickly realize this is not a training story. It's a readiness story. Yes, training can be a big part of readiness, but it comes down to doing whatever you can to help associates be ready for what comes next as their workplace continues to change. And perhaps the biggest part of this is communication. You don't always realize how important communication is when it comes to enabling frontline performance.
The employees in the grocery store, depending on the technology that is supported within that organization, sometimes they're just getting papers posted in their time clock area. Some have more digital means. A lot of times store managers have group texts going on, that type of thing.
So communication and awareness are a huge part of supporting existing associates. But another big part of this readiness story is onboarding brand new associates. When you look around the space, there's a ton of hiring going on. And some of these people may have worked in grocery before, but that was a very different environment. And onboarding usually takes at least a few days just to get the basics down. But now the focus is really shifting. Companies are moving away from the long list of topics they usually cover. And right now it's just about what people need to know to do their job safely and efficiently.
L&D, some of them are doing is, trying to figure out ways to shorten their current onboarding process and make an abridged version, identify what is really critical and what could they teach later on. Some people are out there doing that. What they should be doing is probably a little bit of that and thinking out long term of how do we do this in a better fashion, in a more modern way, maybe moving to more of a mobile solution, things like that.
Mobile technology, especially personal mobile devices, have lagged behind the times when it comes to workplace learning, as companies often struggle to evolve their legacy systems. But this disruption that organizations are now facing may actually push companies to try new approaches to technology for reasons we just couldn't even consider before.
One of the concerns that I've heard from some of the grocers is that, people don't want to share devices. So logging onto a computer that somebody else was using or a store handheld tool to do any online learning is not something that people want to do. People are okay using their own personal device before they touch anything else.
What are our big takeaways from this story? I don't believe there's one answer, especially not right now. But there are principles we can take away from what organizations are doing in grocery to support their frontline. For me, the big one is communication. Awareness is really the beginning of performance, but it's often not considered part of training. And getting people the right information at the right time is essential for them to even begin to do their jobs. What about you, Risha?
The focus on specific work tasks really stands out, figuring out what's most important. And making sure you reinforce the right behaviors, because just showing someone how to do something once isn't enough to really help them change what they're doing. This idea of focusing on what's really important is also a big part of helping people get onboarded faster.
The last piece I wanted to explore with Evan was the role of managers. L&D isn't always right there. We're often a behind-the-scenes support team. But managers are there on the front lines with their associates every day, trying to help them do their best in a very challenging situation.
The manager is really their whole support system. For a new person that's coming on board, that manager is their lifeline, right? So that's their support. That's the person that's going to get them going. They have a big job, and people look to them to solve all of the problems that are going on out there right now.
So as we think about our checklist of tactics for enabling frontline associates, in times of disruption, we need to remember that managers need support too, because they're doing a very challenging job, and without them, associates just cannot succeed. Today's story is focused on shifting perspective in a situation with which we're all pretty familiar. How can we approach the grocery shopping experience while considering the mindset of those working in this environment every day? But it's not just up to grocers to support their associates. We also play a role as consumers in helping keep store associates safe and productive. But don't just take it from us.
My name is Rebecca and I work in a grocery store, so I thought I would share a few tips on how you can help keep you and your local grocers safe while you're shopping. Number 1, make a list and organize it by department. The faster you can get out of the store, the less time you have to swap germs with the store. Number 2, make each shopping trip count. The more you can bring home in every shopping trip without hoarding, the less frequently you have to come into the store, the less frequently you are sharing germs. Number 4, sanitize your hands as you walk into the grocery store. You wouldn't track muddy footprints all over your friend's home. Please don't bring train germs into the place that me and my coworkers have to spend 40 hours a week. I got a job in a grocery store because I thought it would be an easy, low-stress way to pay the bills. Now my coworkers and I have to work during a lockdown to make sure that people can get food. And while it is great to feel like a hero, most of us would rather be safely quarantined at home. So please help us help you keep everybody safe. We're gonna get through this. Thank you.
You can see the full video with tips from Rebecca on Twitter. Her handle is @RebeccaLoops. And thanks to Rebecca for sharing her insights, thanks to Evan Parks for sharing his expertise, and thank you for taking the time to listen to our story today. We'll be checking back in on this story in the future so we can learn even more about resilience in grocery.
To listen to more of our frontline stories, you can subscribe to the 80% on your favorite podcast app. You can also find all of our episodes online at Axonify.com/podcast.
We hope you'll join us again in 2 weeks for another story about how organizations are helping frontline employees make a difference in their companies and their communities. I'll see you then, Risha.
I'll talk to you soon, JD.
Until then, be kind to the frontline.